If you're renting right now, someone has probably told you that you're throwing money away. Here's the uncomfortable truth about renting versus buying a house. That advice could cost you over $100,000 if you follow it at the wrong time. That number isn't made up. It comes from the hidden costs of home ownership that almost no one puts on paper before they sign. And the biggest mistake buyers make isn't overpaying for a house. It's not knowing their break-even point. That's the moment when buying finally beats renting, and for most people in most cities, it takes longer than they think. We're talking 5, 7, sometimes 10 years before buying actually comes out ahead. Stick with this video, and I'll walk you through the real math. Every cost, a concrete example, and a simple rule you can apply to your own situation before you make one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. Here's the part almost everyone gets backwards. They compare their rent payment to a mortgage payment and stop there. That comparison is missing about half the picture. Let's use a concrete example and carry it through the whole video. Say you're buying a $350,000 home with a 20% down payment. That's $70,000 out of pocket on day one, leaving you with a $280,000 mortgage. At today's rate of roughly 7%, your principal and interest payment comes to about $1,864 a month. That sounds manageable. But the mortgage is just the starting line. Add property taxes. The national average runs about 1.1% of the home's value per year. On a $350,000 home, that's $3,350 a year, or roughly $320 a month. Then add homeowners insurance, which typically runs $150 to $200 a month. Now you're already at about $2,350 a month before you've touched the house itself, and the house will need touching. Roofs, HVAC systems, water heaters, appliances. The widely used rule of thumb is to budget 1% of the home's value per year for maintenance. On a $350,000 home, that's $3,500 a year, or another $290 a month. Some years you'll spend less. The year your roof needs replacing, you'll spend far more. So the real all-in monthly cost of that $350,000 home is closer to $2,040, not $1,264. That gap matters enormously when you're comparing it to renting, and we'll see exactly how much next. Renters aren't off the hook either. But the math works differently, and that difference is where the real comparison lives. Imagine you can rent a comparable home in the same neighborhood for $2,000 a month. That includes your full obligation. Rent plus renter's insurance, which typically costs about $15 to $20 a month. Call it $2,020 all in. No property taxes, no maintenance bill, no surprise roof fund. Compare that to the buyer's $2,640, and the renter is coming out $620 ahead every single month. Over a year, that's $740 in savings. But here's where most people stop doing the math. They forget to ask what a renter does with that extra money. If that $620 monthly difference goes into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, that's a fund that tracks the 500 largest U.S. companies, earning the historical average of roughly 10% per year. After 10 years, that money grows to approximately $125,000. That's the opportunity cost of buying, the wealth you could have built with the money that homeownership consumes. It doesn't mean renting is always better. It means ignoring this number is always a mistake. Now, buyers aren't just spending, they're also building equity. So the real question is, which path builds more wealth over time? And that depends entirely on one critical variable we haven't talked about yet. That $70,000 down payment deserves its own conversation, because most people treat it like it disappears into the house. It doesn't disappear. It gets converted into home equity. But there's a cost to that conversion that almost no one calculates. That $70,000, if left invested in the S&P 500 at a 10% historical annual average, would grow to roughly $181,000 over 10 years. The growth it gives up by sitting in your home's equity instead of a brokerage account is called the opportunity cost of the down payment. That foregone $111,000 in potential growth is a real cost of buying. It just never shows up on any mortgage paperwork. Now, your home may appreciate too. U.S. home values have historically grown at roughly 3% to 4% per year on average. On our $350,000 home, 4% annual appreciation means the home is worth about $518,000 after 10 years, a gain of $168,000. That sounds great. But the stock market's historical 10% average would have turned that same $70,000 into $181,000 in growth with far less money tied up and none of the maintenance headaches. This isn't an argument against buying. It's an argument for doing the comparison honestly. And the honest comparison has one more piece that changes everything: closing costs. Closing costs are the fee that buyers pay to close the deal, and they're the main reason why buying only makes financial sense if you stay long enough. These costs typically run 2% to 5% of the purchase price. On our $350,000 home, let's use 3%. That's $2,500 paid up front, on top of the down payment, just to get the keys. When you eventually sell, you'll pay a real estate agent commission, typically 5% to 6% of the sale price. On a home worth $18,000 in 10 years, that's roughly $28,000 walking out the door on closing day. So here's how to find your break-even point. Add your upfront costs, down payment opportunity cost, closing costs, to your monthly ownership premium over renting. Then calculate how long it takes for equity gains and appreciation to cancel that out. For our example, running the full math, the break-even point falls somewhere between 6 and 8 years. Before that point, the renter building their investment portfolio is likely ahead. After it, the homeowner typically wins, and wins bigger the longer they stay. A quick rule: if you know you're staying put for fewer than 5 years, renting almost always wins on pure math. 5 to 7 years is the gray zone where local market conditions matter a lot. Beyond 7 years in most U.S. markets, buying typically builds more wealth. That timeline is the real answer to the renting versus buying question, not which payment feels lower. Knowing the break-even point is powerful, but there are specific conditions that make buying pull ahead faster, and a few that slow it down. Buying wins faster when home prices in your area are rising quickly, when you lock in a lower interest rate, when your rent is high relative to local home prices, and most importantly, when you stay in the home well past the break-even point. Every year beyond break-even, you're building equity, locking in a fixed payment, while your renting neighbors face annual increases and benefiting from continued appreciation. There's also a psychological and practical value to ownership that numbers can't fully capture. Stability, the ability to renovate, no landlord, and a forced savings mechanism that keeps many people from spending what would otherwise go to investments. For a lot of people, that structure is genuinely worth something. On the flip side, buying wins much more slowly, or not at all. When you're in a high-price-to-rent market like San Francisco or Manhattan, when you buy with less than 20% down and pay private mortgage insurance, PMI is a fee lenders charge when your equity is below 20%, or when you stretch your budget and have no emergency fund left for repairs. That version, buying under financial stress, is where the $100,000 loss we mentioned at the start actually happens. But there's a smarter alternative, and it's simpler than most people expect. Here's a tool that lets you compare any market in under a minute. It's called the price-to-rent ratio, and most people have never heard of it. Take the median home price in your city. Divide it by the annual rent you'd pay for a comparable home. The result is your price-to-rent ratio. Here's how to read it. A ratio below 15 means buying is likely the stronger financial move in that market. Between 15 and 20, it depends heavily on how long you plan to stay. Above 20, renting is usually the better financial choice. You'd need many years to break even. Here's a real example. The median home price in Austin, Texas is roughly $500,000. A comparable rental runs about $2,200 a month or $26,400 a year. Divide $500,000 by $26,400, and you get a ratio of about 19, squarely in the gray zone. Now take Cleveland, Ohio. Median home around $210,000. Comparable rent around $1,400 a month or $1,680 a year. That's a ratio of about 12.5, firmly in buy territory, if you're staying long term. This one calculation won't make the decision for you, but it anchors the conversation in your actual local market instead of national advice written for someone else's city. Let's bring it all together. The renting versus buying a house debate isn't won by whichever payment is lower. It's won by whichever path builds more wealth over your actual timeline. Buying carries costs most people ignore. Maintenance at 1% per year, property taxes, closing costs, and the opportunity cost of your down payment. Renting carries its own cost. No equity, no appreciation, and rent that can rise. The difference is in the break-even point. typically 6 to 8 years, and what you do with the savings gap in the meantime. Use the price-to-rent ratio to gauge your local market. If it's above 20 and you're not planning to stay long, renting and investing the difference is likely the stronger financial move. If it's below 15 and you're planning to put down roots for a decade or more, buying starts to look very good. And if you're in the gray zone, run the full math for your specific numbers before you decide. Your one concrete action this week: look up your target zip code, find the median home price and a comparable rental price, and run the price-to-rent ratio calculation right now. It takes 5 minutes and gives you a real foothold. Now that you understand the true cost of buying, the thing that quietly derails both renters and new homeowners is not having an emergency fund in place first. Watch that video next to see exactly how big yours needs to be and where to keep it. If this one was useful, subscribe to Plain Money and drop your price-to-rent ratio in the comments. I'd love to see which markets you're working with.